Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's call. This is Jeff Adams. I'm going to be your host. With us tonight, we have my good friend Robert Bluhm, who is America's #1 tax reduction and asset protection attorney. Now, Bob Bluhm is the nation's leading asset protection attorney. On top of that, for more than 25 years, Bob has been a trial lawyer and has represented many Fortune 500 companies as well as smaller privately held businesses. Now, as a speaker, Bob has shared the stage with notable political figures such as President Clinton, Bush, Margaret Thatcher, Michael Gorbachev, and financial figures such as Jim Cramer, David Bach, Gene Chatsey, Susie Orman, and Robert Kiyosaki. He's the author of several articles on asset protection and is a contributor to the Asset Protection Handbook. Now, on top of that, tonight, Bob is going to share with us his secrets and years of insights on how you can protect yourself from lawsuits, how to save big money in taxes, and how to grow your wealth more quickly and securely. On top of that, all attendees tonight are going to receive a special free ebook at the end of the call, so make sure you stay on the calls at the end. I want everybody to go ahead and grab pen and paper, a comfortable place to sit, get ready to take some notes, get ready to be amazed, shut down your Facebook, shut down your email, and get ready to learn how to save huge money in taxes and also protect your assets. Bob, are you there?
I'm here, Jeff.
Hey, Bob, how are you doing here tonight?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on. Good to be with everybody.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been trying for years now to get you on our call. I'm really happy you took time out of your busy schedule to come on our call here tonight. So, Bob, I know you're going to show us how to save big time on taxes, how to put more money in our bank accounts, how to protect our assets. So why don't you go ahead and take it away?
I will. Thank you, Jeff. Well, everybody, great to have you on the call tonight, and want to talk to you about some things that you wouldn't normally think are as important as they are. But over 25 years, I have seen people either be made or broken by the things that we're going to talk about here tonight. Now, Jeff has done a great job for so many of you in teaching you how to make money. Now, what Jeff also mentioned, by the way, for all of those of you who stay on the call to the end, we're going to send you let you download a 7-day e-course. We call it Money in Your Pocket, the 10 biggest tax breaks for landlords. And if you're a landlord and you don't know about these things, you are just frittering money away, and you need to know exactly what's in this. Now, so that'll be our gift to you as a result of sticking around on the end of the call. Now, what Jeff does is teaches you how to make money in real estate, and he does an amazing job of that. And I hope all of you are good students of his. That we call making money offense, because you're trying to score, and, you know, we cheer when you score making money in real estate. But what I'm going to talk to you tonight about is not offense, it's what we call the other half of the game, and that is defense. And believe me, you have got to have a defense every bit as good as your offense, or you do not win this game. You're just in the game, and you're getting beat. So I'm going to talk to you tonight about defense. Jeff will cover offense beautifully if you'll give him the time. Now,
hey, Bob, I just realized something, Bob. Bob,
yeah.
You're from Texas.
Yeah.
And those are the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys, you bet.
So you must be a Cowboy fan, huh?
They made last year. Yes, that's right.
All right.
That's good. Now, folks, the goal is you want to make more money, obviously, but the problem is when you make money, now you got to pay taxes on the money you make. But the goal is if you have a defense, you can slash your income taxes to the bare legal minimum. You're going to preserve your profits, and you're going to keep way more of that money and put it back in your pocket, so you got more money to go out and reinvest in real estate, leverage that money, build your wealth much more quickly. Now, Congress makes the rules on how we're going to lower our taxes. And Congress has said that you and I have got to do 3 simple things, and we all pay the bare legal minimum in income taxes. Now, a quick word about our tax laws, which I have worked with as a lawyer for over 25 years. And folks, did you all know that our tax laws are a screwed up mess? They say we can pay our taxes 3 different ways. They say we can pay our taxes now, we can pay our taxes later, and we can even pay our taxes never. Now, given a choice, I think most of you would probably want to pay your taxes never, and let me tell you how this works. If you've got a paycheck from a job, guess when you're paying your taxes? right now. And that's the worst way you could pay any kind of tax, because once your money's gone, it is gone. Now, this is why I bet everybody here has an IRA, a 401k, 403b, because that's where we get to pay our taxes later. And now you're hanging on to your money. And if you listen to Jeff, he will show you how you can actually take that pre-tax IRA money, use it to invest in real estate. And so, folks, paying later is way better than paying now. But best of all, obviously, is paying your taxes never, and you literally pay your taxes never when you take what's called a tax deduction or a tax write-off. Now, here's an example. Did you know if you own a business, you can buy a vehicle for your business and write off the first $25,000 of the cost of that vehicle? Now, think with me. When are you paying taxes on this $25,000 of your income? Now, later, or never? Because you don't pay taxes on the money covered by deductions. And what this means in terms of dollars in your pocket is this. You pay taxes on that $25,000, and let's assume a 30% tax rate. You realize you're talking about $7,500, which you would have had to pay to the IRS, which you now put back in your pocket. Jeff, what do you think? $7,500 in your pocket, good?
I like that $75 in my pocket. And I tell you what, the reason why the rich get rich and the poor get poor is because the rich have corporations set up, and all their expenses go through the corporation. At the end of the year, they claim the income that they're making after they pay all their expenses, okay, where most people, they work a JOB for a company, they get paid the money after taxes are taken out, and then they pay for all their expenses. So tonight on the call, we're going to go over how you can save tons of money and actually make more money, and have a special treat for you. Bob is going to show you how you can get a free corporation at the end of this call. So again, make sure you stay on the call, at the end of the call. Try to get that free corporation, get that ebook. And Bob, keep going. This is awesome.
I sure will. And Jeff, you make a great point, which everybody needs to understand, and that is what we're talking about here is actually making more money and paying less in taxes. Normally the way it works is you make more money, you pay more in taxes. If you didn't set yourself up for the right way, you're going to make more money and pay less in taxes, and you're going to have more goodies as a result. I'm going to show you what that is in a minute. But I want you to think about this. How'd you put $7,500 in your pocket, folks? Because you worked harder on offense or because you worked smarter on defense? And that's how easy it can be to put that money back in your pocket, just knowing a few very important rules. Now, this is why Congress has said that the number one tax-cutting strategy in America today, everybody write this down, is you want to own a business. Now, if you own real estate, even one rental property, folks, that's a business. And I don't know if you ever thought of it that way, but you are definitely in business. Jeff, do you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely, and that's what you're trying to teach them, how to have a business. Now, having a business, folks, is good, because that's what gets you in the game. And there's an old saying that says you can't win it if you're not in it. Got to be in the game. But having a business alone doesn't mean you've won the game. You still have to be smart about how you're going to run this business. Now, there are many, many ways you could run a business in our country today, but only one of these is going to give you all the tax deductions and all the goodies in the law, and it is called a C corporation. Now, I'm going to give you three very important reasons right now why you never want to run a business in your name as a sole proprietor, as a DBA. You only want to run your real estate business, or any other business for that matter, as a corporation. Number one, you do business as a corporation because corporations lower your income taxes by giving you far more tax deductions than any other business structure. The reason you're going to want as many deductions as you can get is because deductions are where you pay taxes never, and that means you are putting far more money back in your pocket. So number one, corporations lower your income taxes. Number two, corporations give you liability protection. You're going to be way better off having a corporation shielding you when there's a misunderstanding, some miscommunication, a disagreement, and somebody sues your business. Folks, you realize if you're doing business as a sole proprietor when you're sued, you could lose everything you own. So number two, liability protection. Then number three, you're going to have a much lower audit risk with the IRS doing business as a corporation because, frankly, corporations are audited at the lowest rates and sole proprietors are audited at the very highest rates. So, 3 reasons you want to do business as a corporation. Number 1, liability protection. Number 2, lower taxes. 2, liability protection. Number 3, lower audit risk. And we're talking at the moment about the first of those reasons why you only want to do business as a corporation, and that's because they give you far more tax deductions than any other business structure. And remember, the reason you want as many deductions as you can get is because deductions are where you and I pay taxes never. And write that in your notes. In big capital letters, you pay taxes never when you take a deduction. Now, this is why Congress says, yes, of course you want to own a business, but in order to get the tax deductions available to a business owner, you want to run it using the correct legal structure, and that is going to be as a corporation. Now, people often say, well, Bob, what's that C mean in front of corporation? And it's one of 2 major methods of taxing a corporation. The other major method is called an S corporation, and I hope most of you have heard of an S corporation before, but I want to go over the basics in case some of you haven't. An S corporation is referred to as a flow-through entity, which simply means with an S corporation, you're going to pay income taxes on your business profits at your personal income tax rates. You're going to pay income taxes on your business profits at your personal income tax rates. And folks, for most people, that does not sound good. Now, there is a time and a place, though, when the S corporation may be the very best legal structure to let you pay the lowest taxes, and it's when you have a startup business with a loss. Now, a loss sounds worse than it really is. All it means is you put more money into the business than the business has paid you back so far, and it's normal to have a loss your first little while in business. Because you've got a bunch of startup expenses you're going to pay once, all at the beginning when you don't have much revenue, and that's a loss. But here's the good news. If you have a loss, you're going to love the S corporation because it allows you to take the entire loss and use it to offset other income you might have from salaries or investments. And so even though you didn't make a dime in your business, you have dramatically lowered your taxes. And folks, that's good. Lowering your taxes means you're keeping more of your money. Now, the problem is this. You're not in business to generate a loss. You're only in business to generate a profit. And the problem is, once you're making a profit, now you have to pay taxes on the profit. So this is when you're going to be smart. You're going to dodge the bullet, switch from an S corporation to a C corporation, which is the other major method of taxing that corporation. And the reason we're going to switch is now that we're making a profit, it's the C corporation that gives you all these numerous and generous tax deductions, which we now use to offset the profit. So now that we're making a profit, we lower our taxes through deductions. So the rule of thumb, I want everybody to write in their notes, is you use an S corporation when you have a loss, underlying loss. You switch to a C corporation once you're making a profit. And it's a one-time switch. The normal business cycle is you begin as an S corporation, then when we're profitable, we switch to a C. You don't go every other year from S to C. Now I'm a C, now I'm an S, now you see me, now you don't. You know, it's a one-time switch. All right, now, there's also something I want to point out here for real estate investors. While I'm talking about, yes, you want to use a C corporation, you only want to manage your real estate business with a C corporation. You never own real estate in a C corporation. We're not talking about an ownership structure yet. I'll get to that in a minute. We're talking about how you're going to run your business. In other words, how you're going to manage your real estate business. And that's going to be through a C corporation. And if it's not clear now, it will be in a little bit. We're going to manage the real estate business in a C corporation, not own the real estate. All right. Now, there's also a type of corporation a lot of you have heard about called a limited liability company or an LLC. And this is a great tool if you know exactly what you're doing with it. But I got to tell you right now, I see people with LLCs who have no idea what they're doing. They've got it really screwed up, and it's going to really hurt them badly. For example, if you have one particular type of LLC, a growing number of states, not every state yet, but a growing number of states are ruling that you have zero liability protection. That's called a single-member LLC. That means you're the only person in the LLC. You own the whole thing. And if that's the case, a growing number of states are ruling that you are essentially a sole proprietor. When you're sued, you have no liability protection, and you could lose everything you own. No protection at all. Now, there is also confusion on the tax side, because when you set up an LLC, you don't have any tax method at all. You got to choose how you want your LLC to be taxed, and every LLC can be taxed one of 4 different ways. You can have it taxed as an S corporation, as a C corporation, as a sole proprietorship, or as a partnership. Any one of those 4 methods you could choose. Now,
hey, Bob, Bob made a really good point there about an LLC. I have a friend of mine. Her name is Phyllis Rockhour. I know a lot of people on the call here know who she is. She owns LA Investors Club. She has an LLC, and she recently was sued by somebody. And guess what they did? They went after her personally, and that LLC, just like you said, offered no liability.
No liability protection at all.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. Exactly. There's only one state in the country right now that offers any liability protection for somebody with a single-member LLC. But the majority of the states absolutely do not. So thank you, Jeff, for pointing that out. And then the other problem, too, if you don't know what you're doing with an LLC, is a number of states, including California, where Jeff is, tax LLCs at much, much higher rates than regular corporations. So you got to know the ins and outs, the little rules, the little nuances, and that's what we're here trying to do is make sure everybody is aware of the issues. Is that good, Jeff?
Absolutely. That's awesome.
All right. Now, let me point something out. Under certain circumstances, your LLC is going to give you the lowest taxes if it's taxed as an S corporation. Under other circumstances, lowest taxes if it's taxed as a C corporation. Other times, you're going to want to tax as a sole proprietorship, and other times you want to tax as a partnership. The point is, it all depends upon your particular facts and circumstances. There's no one standard answer. So if you're going to use an LLC, I really encourage you to talk to a good tax lawyer, a good CPA, because they will help you get this. Because if you didn't know, it could be taxed 4 different ways. Think about it. You just blindly set up an LLC. Doesn't this mean you got about a 25% shot at getting this right? And folks, 25% odds means you lose. Those are not winning odds. So use an LLC as long as you know exactly what you're doing with it. It's a good tool in the right hands. Now, Congress has this list of 3 requirements we've all got to satisfy. We're going to pay the lowest taxes, and the first requirement is you want to own a business because that's where the tax deductions are. And then second of all, Congress says you want to use the right legal structure to get the tax deductions, and that is going to be as a C corporation. Now, there is a third requirement here. Oh, by the way, people often say, Bob, just back up a minute. What's the big difference between an S and a C corporation? And Jeff, I bet you've heard that. People ask this a million times. I want to really help you out with it. The difference is this. S corporations give you minimal fringe benefits, which is the same thing as deductions. It's the C corporation that gives you generous fringe benefits. And I want you to think of it this way. A lot of us here would love to fire our boss, follow Jeff in his footsteps, start our own business, be our own boss, leave the whole rat race of being an employee. When you do that, you lose your fringe benefits that you get from your company, your employer. The good news is you've got your own business. That's where you give yourself the fringe benefits. It's from your own corporation, which is exactly what Jeff does and every other good business owner does. So you're going to want, when it comes to giving yourself fringe benefits, you're going to want to have the C corporation. Now, one quick example of a fringe benefit is medical benefits. And as quickly as you all can, write into your notes right now what I have on the screen, because we're going to compare an S and a C corporation with regard to medical benefits. Now, the rules with an S corporation are this. When you have an S corporation, you get to write off the cost of your health insurance premium. Now, premium, that means the $200 a month, $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, $800, $900 a month you may pay for health insurance. With an S corporation, if that's your company, you get to write that off, and that's a good deduction. But the problem is that's all you get. And there are medical expenses that go way beyond just these premium payments. And this is why, ideally, you want to be doing business as a C corporation, because the rules now say with a C corporation, you pay taxes never on all the money you pay for health insurance premiums, but also deductibles, co-payments, prescription drug costs, alternative remedies like massage or chiropractic or other stuff that's not covered under a normal insurance plan, vision expenses, dental expenses, the kids need braces, you write it all off. You know, studies show that the average American family spends around $15,000 a year on medical expenses when you add everything up. And that's going up every year, by the way. And someone with a medical condition could be spending way more. Now, the whole point is this. Whatever you're spending on medical expenses, the question is, how do we get to take 100% of our medical expenses and turn them into tax deductions? Well, here's what Congress has to say. Number one, if you want to write off 100% of your medical expenses, first of all, Congress says you have to own a business. Because if you don't have a business, think about this. I want you to ask yourself, if you didn't have a business last year, how much did you get to write off in medical expenses last year without a business? The answer for most people is nothing. Zero. Zip. Because the rule is, without a business, you can only write off medical expenses that are greater than 7.5% of your adjusted gross income. And if you do the math in your head, you figure out pretty quick that means it's designed to let you write off nothing. And by the way, under existing law, that's scheduled to go to 10% of AGI next year. So you get no write-offs for medical expenses if you're an employee. Now, let's fast forward to this year. If you haven't bought real estate yet, hop on it, and you now own a business, you have a C corporation, you have the right keywords. Now you get to write off 100% of your medical expenses, and folks, that can be, on average, like a $15,000 deduction, putting roughly $5,000 in your pocket. Is that all right with everybody? Jeff, what do you think? Would that be good
That's
for
all right
folks?
with me, Bob. That's all right with me.
Good for me, too. That's just putting money in your pocket. Now, second of all, by the way, here's another example why you got to have a business. It's the dividing line, kind of between the haves and the have-nots. If you didn't have a business last year, think of this. How much could you write off for a business vehicle without a business? Nothing. With a business, you can write off up to $25,000.
Hey, Bob, one thing I want to mention, too, for those of you on the call here tonight, you know, I have a lot of students that are airline pilots, doctors, lawyers. That's their primary profession. However, they have a small little real estate company on the side. Their wife manages it. They've got 2 or 3 rental properties. They have a corporation set up, and they write off everything.
Okay,
through that business. So I'm not telling you, for those of you on the call here tonight, to go out and quit your job and start this real estate company. I'm saying, you know, if you don't have a real estate business, you don't have to quit your job and do that. You can have a little part-time real estate business, have that corporation write everything off. And that's the way to do it. Do you agree, Bob?
You are so right, Jeff, and I want to reiterate that, too. I'm not suggesting anybody quit their day job. But you want to ease yourself into real estate, because what happens when that day job goes away, which they often do? And what happens when it's time to retire and the income just plain stops? Most people don't have nearly enough saved for retirement. You still need cash flow in retirement, and that's what real estate does for you. So absolutely right, Jeff. You want to start something on the side, evenings and weekends, turn off the TV, get out there and do a little business on the side. Now, Congress also says, yeah, business owners get all the tax deductions, but not automatically. In order to get the tax deductions, got to run your business using the correct legal structure, and that's going to be a C corporation. We're going to come back to that in just a second. Now, first of all, I think everybody's ready for some quick tax tips, and I want to give them to you. What is a real estate business? Jeff just talked about this. They got a little business on the side. Well, a real estate business is the opposite of being a real estate investor, and these are some pretty important words we got to understand. A real estate business is active versus passive. In other words, you use a corporation to operate the business, and when you have a corporation, the IRS automatically assumes, they give you a presumption, the benefit of the doubt that you are a business if you set up a corporation, and that's why it's so important to have that corporation. Now, the difference is this. If you don't have a business, you're instead a real estate investor, and that's not what you want. That means you're passive. That means let me give you a classic example. You're a doctor, you're busy, you got a lot of money, you have no time, and someone comes to you with a deal. and says, hey, would you like to go 50-50 on this? And the doctor says, sure, here's half the money or here's all the money. You know, you found the deal, I'll give you the money, and we'll split the profits 50-50. You manage it. The doctor just collects his check. The doctor is a real estate investor. You are a real estate, have a real estate business. You have an investor. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to everybody. And a real estate investor generally uses an LLC as a holding entity, not as an operating entity. And once again, the difference is operations. You want to use a C corporation as an operating entity, and then we'll show you the right tool to use it for a holding entity. Now, so in other words, a real estate business gives you many, many tax breaks, and a real estate investor gets very few tax breaks. So, number one, you definitely want to own a business. Congress says, second of all, to get the tax deductions, you want to run the business using the correct legal structure. That's going to be a C corporation. And then there's a third requirement here. This is very important. Congress says you must have in your C corporation documents certain key words in order to get the deductions. You know, we talked about medical deductions before. Let me give you a quick example. Medical deductions require you to have very important keywords in your C corporation document. They're required by federal law, Section 105 of the Internal Revenue Code, and it's called a medical reimbursement plan. Now, when you have a medical reimbursement plan in your corporation, you now are entitled to write off 100% of your medical expenses. And folks, that makes all the difference in the world, having those key words. Now, let me give you another very important tax tip. Did you know that you can pay for birthday parties, holiday gifts, vacations, clothes, tuition, even a car? Did you know, Jeff, that you can pay for all that tax-free?
Absolutely. That's why
that almost sounds like
have a corporation.
Tax. Yeah, sounds like tax blasphemy, I know. But folks, if the IRS is on the call, let me explain exactly what I mean. We're not talking about cheating here. Never, ever, ever cut corners, never cheat. We're going to follow the rules to a T, but I want to teach you this very important rule. If you want to pay for those things on a tax-free basis, then hire your kids. Now, this is only for kids who are aged 7 to 17. Doesn't work for a 6-year-old, doesn't work for an 18-year-old. You can pay them up to $5,950 every single year. And you don't pay tax, they don't pay tax, because that's the amount of the standard deduction this year. That means there's no income tax, there's no Social Security or Medicare tax, there's no FUTA tax, there's no TITWA tax, there's no, and your business gets a tax deduction. Well, why? Well, because that's a business expense, a salary. And that is a business expense, which you don't pay taxes on it. So it doesn't get any better than that. And folks, here, let's just do the math real quick. You got a kid that you employ for 11 years at roughly $6,000 a year. That's $66,000 you have paid your kid absolutely tax-free minimum. Jeff, how do you like that tax break?
Worked for me. I can't wait till my two twins turn 7 years old.
Yeah, you can't do now. Now look, let me point something out. Can't wait till they turn 7 years. Why do they have to be 7? Because they really got to do the work. We're not talking about cheating here. You can't just put them on the payroll and have it be a ghost job. I mean, you want to have them empty trash. You want to have them straighten the office. You want to have them vacuum. You want to have them, go out, if you got rental properties, and cut the grass and trim the bushes and, clean out the gutters. And you want to put them to work, and that's good for the kids. They got to really work, and you want to keep a log, and you want to, show that they really did some work here. But the whole point is, you put your kids to work, you're going to get major, huge tax breaks, and that $66,000 that they never paid taxes on, that you never paid taxes on, that your corporation never paid taxes on, now goes to pay for birthday parties, birthday gifts, clothes, even their car, education, et cetera, because it's their money. And they got it tax-free. I hope everybody's really enjoying that tax tip. Now, the whole point is this, folks. You have to have a plan for your money. You got to know the rules, because if you don't have a plan for your money, y'all know who does have a plan for your money? And I guarantee you won't like Uncle Sam's plan. We all got a rich uncle, and he seems to be getting richer every year at your expense. So, folks, once again, I want to throw out one last little tax tip, Jeff. You think a third tax tip will be okay?
Works for me.
All right, everybody listen carefully. If you have a business, you own real estate, in other words, you travel to the real estate from property to property, you go to the hardware store to buy something for the property, that is a business trip. And you need to be keeping a mileage log. Now, if you're not keeping a mileage log, I want you to think of it this way. Every 2 miles you drive, I want you to roll down the window and throw a dollar bill out the window. Because that's what you're doing. It's 55 cents a mile that you get if you'll simply keep a mileage log as a mileage deduction. So, folks, I mean, that is just something people are throwing money out the window. Keep a mileage log if you're on business travel. All right, now, we've talked about taxes. They're very, very important. The IRS nickels and dimes you to death. You got to nickel and dime them to death. And believe me, it starts at nothing really fast into thousands and thousands of dollars a year. And that can make all the difference in a whole lifestyle. And how fast your real estate business grows, how fast you're going to accumulate money, build wealth, and how fast you're going to be able to retire. Now, I want to turn the tables here, switch subjects, because I want to talk about kind of the other side of the coin. We talked about putting money in your pocket. Now I want to talk about how people are going to take money out of your pocket. And I'm talking about people who are going to take advantage of you, tenants who will take advantage of you, other people out there who will take advantage of you because they will try to sue you. They will try to get a settlement out of you for oftentimes absolutely frivolous and bogus claims. Now,
hey, Bob, really fast.
Yeah,
I'm really excited to hear this portion of the call because I can tell you I've had a handful of people throughout the years try and sue me. I had a tenant that said they fell in the bathroom, hit their head on the wall, and came down with a fractured skull and brain damage, okay? I've had people fall in front of my rental properties. I've had contractors fall off of roofs, okay? And with the economy the way it is right now, everybody's out there trying to do the money grab, okay? So you have to protect yourself. So go ahead, take it away.
Oh, you absolutely do. I could tell you thousands of stories because, look, we're in desperate times. These are not good. This is not a good economy. People are desperate for money, and desperate people do desperate things they wouldn't normally do. And if they perceive you've got some money, man, that they will try to shake you down and take it from you. Now, I'll just add something else. I was in New York, and a guy said to me, we own 10 apartment buildings in New York. It's unbelievably good. 10 apartment buildings. He said, but we're at risk of losing them all. Here's what happened. He said, they're mid-rises. He said they had a tenant who had relatives come. One of the relatives had a baby. They had a chair sitting next to a window. It's hot, they had the windows open. There's just the screen was there. The baby climbed up on the back of the chair, pushed against the screen, fell out of the window, badly injured, little baby. He said, we're getting sued for everything we have. They owned, I'll tell you how they owned their apartment buildings later on, maybe. All their eggs were in one basket. Worst possible way to own things. Wow. So, yeah, it happens all the time. We're going to show you how you avoid that kind of stuff. I want to ask some quick questions. If you went back 40 years, ask yourself this. Are lawsuits more common today than they were 40 years ago? Are there more things you can get sued for today? Are the damage awards bigger than ever? And is this trend likely to continue? And I think if you're honest, you're looking around, you're paying attention, you'd have to say yes to every one of those things. Now, I want to show you something because the Internet has changed just about everything we do, and it's changed the way you get sued as well. Let's say somebody's injured, and lawyers will contact them, or they'll contact a lawyer, and the lawyer typically will take the case on what's called a contingency fee basis. Now, that means, if you listen to the ads, you pay nothing unless you win. So in other words, if you lose the case and you got a contingency fee lawyer, you don't pay anything the lawyer takes the loss. Because the lawyer's going to put up all the money, pay all the court costs, all the fees, charge you nothing, and then assuming they win something, the lawyer's going to take 30 or 40% of what they collect, so they're going to get paid contingent on what they collect. So, this is what drives these lawsuits so often is that, look, there's no downside, there's an unlimited upside, so why not sue? And that's really the dynamic. That's the thought process. Now, once the lawyer decides to take your case, they'll start by interviewing you. They'll say what happened. Then they'll interview as many people as they can find who are related to this case. And let's just assume your name happens to be on this list. You didn't do anything wrong, but you got mentioned. The lawyer is going to hand this list to a legal assistant and say, go to the internet and do an asset search. Now, this kind of site I'm showing you didn't even exist several years ago, but with the explosion of broadband, there are hundreds of them now. I want to give you a typical assignment. This site says, we provide detailed financial information to assist attorneys and clients in determining the economic viability of litigation. Jeff, what do you think that means?
I mean, they're going to see what your net worth is. And I tell you what, I've put in the time and taken care of my assets. If you were to run a search on me in there, you would find that I own a home in San Bernardino, California, that's worth about $55,000. I owe $54,000 on it, and I own nothing else. So do you think an attorney is going to take that case?
Yeah, you look poor, Jeff.
Exactly. And that's for those of you on the call here tonight, that's what you want to do. You want to set it up so that if somebody goes and does a search on you, that they don't find that you own 10 houses paid off free and clear and all these other assets, okay? And it really, you can get this accomplished pretty simply. So
I'll show you. Yeah, I'm going to show you how. But let me just let you know the extent of the threat, first of all. This site goes on to say, we offer comprehensive asset searches in the U.S. and over 200 countries of the world. We identify your bank accounts, your brokerage accounts, your real property, your vehicles, watercraft, aircraft, business affiliations, and other valuable assets to satisfy judgments. So if you own it, believe me, they're going to find it. Now, once they're on the scent, they can see you've got something, they're going to keep going. This next site will give them every piece of real estate you own, when you bought it, and what you paid for it. In addition, they'll find all your buddies from jail. They'll find every place you ever lived. They'll find your Social Security information, and then they're going to get your current address. And once they've got your current address, they'll go to a free website called Zillow.com and find the county appraised value of your home. Now, this happens to be a swank neighborhood in the West Coast, but they're going to find a mid-priced house where you live just fine. Now, they don't really care what the county thinks your house is worth. What they're really trying to get at is how much equity you have in your home. The reason they want to know how much equity you have in your home or your rental properties is because that's what they can often pay. And that's what this next site's going to give them. It includes a real property equity assessment because, folks, this is all public record. Now, it's always been public record. But the difference between, 10 years ago and today is in the past they had to go to this office, that county, the next state over. It cost way too much money, took way too much time. They didn't do it. But now with a few clicks of a mouse, they're going to know more about your finances than you do. Now, is anybody here feeling just a little bit vulnerable? You should, because this is all out there. Now, I'm going to suggest something. If you're one of Jeff's students, I know you want to be rich or richer through real estate, and that's a great way to be. Now, you want to be rich, as Jeff talked about, but when somebody does an asset search on you, you want to look broke. Now, for those of you who are thinking, well, that's okay because I actually am broke, that's a whole different problem. Jeff will help you not be broke. But if you even have any money at all, I want you to think of this. Why do you want to look broke, like Jeff has already done? Because put yourself in the position of the plaintiff's lawyer. They got to take 30% of what they collect. What's 30% of zero? Zero. If there's no payoff for them, why would they waste their time and their money fooling with you? They're going to skip right over you and go to the next guy on the list, and that's really the way the whole thing works.
But now, here's the thing, Bob. Here's the thing I want to point out, though. Even if you are broke and they sue you and they get a judgment, And then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, you go out and you start making good money, you buy a house, all that stuff. They can come after you later. Now, I don't know what the statute is on time frame. I think it's like 10 years. You would know that.
Yeah, it varies from state to state.
Yeah, but average of 10 years probably?
Yeah, roughly.
Okay. They can come after you 7, 8 years later and say, hey, listen, you've got this property you bought. There's $300,000 equity. We want that equity, even though you were sued 7, 8, 9 years ago. So you still have to protect yourself.
Jeff, you're exactly right.
They can garnish your wages.
Yeah,
they can get a judgment against you for $1 million and then go garnish your wages, even if you are broke. So you still have to protect your assets.
Yes, you do. Now, you just don't have to do this particular side of it, which we're talking about, which is getting assets out of your name. If you don't have those right now, you don't have to do this step. But for those of you who have assets at this moment, you need to get them out of your name, because there are simple, inexpensive things everybody here can do right now to begin to look more broke. And I'm going to be talking about that as we proceed. Now, I want you to understand, I live in Dallas, Texas. I'm a Texas lawyer. And down in Texas, lawyers have a saying about people who do nothing to protect themselves. We say, some folks just need suing. And I hope that isn't you. Now, let's continue on, because you may be really bothered by this conversation. You may be thinking, you know what, I'm sorry my name got on some list of somebody who got hurt, but I didn't do anything wrong, so you can't sue me. Folks, you can get sued even though you haven't done anything wrong. I'm going to give you several examples right now. And I want you to ask yourself, is this a lawsuit? And the answer is, you bet that's a lawsuit. Everybody on this call knows somebody who's been sued.
Hey, Bob, I have a friend of mine that owns a coffee shop. This gentleman came to the coffee shop, started having coffee every morning, and started giving my friend who owned the coffee shop some marketing advice. You should do this, you should do that, you should do this, you should do that. That went on for a couple of weeks. And then a couple of weeks later, the guy tells my friend, he goes, I gave you all this advice and your business is increasing. I'd like you to pay me a consulting fee of, $10,000 because I've helped you. My friend's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I never told you I was going to pay you, or you're the one that gave me this advice. And long story short, the guy ended up filing a lawsuit against my friend who owned the coffee shop. Basically a bogus lawsuit, but long story short, my friend had to settle for $10,000 to get that lawsuit to go away. It was either that or spend, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on an attorney, because the guy who filed the lawsuit had a contingent attorney that wasn't charging him anything.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And it's exactly how the game is played, folks. And Jeff, thank you for letting people know this is real world stuff. This is really how it happens. Now, I want to point out something. With this kind of lawsuit, we're talking divorce, you don't have to do anything wrong. You get sued that way, do you? No, because it's called no-fault divorce. Now, another way people get sued is this. Think of this. You have a business. If you have the kind of business where you have even one employee, that employee does something wrong, you understand you can be sued for what your employee does wrong. Now, here's another one. Homeowners. You can get sued if somebody gets hurt on your property. And you may be thinking, well, yeah, but they were an intruder. a trespasser. You know what that means? Nothing. You can get sued even if somebody's trespassing on your property and they're not supposed to be there and they get injured. You're still the one who can get sued. Now, people often think, well, that's why I have homeowners liability insurance. Well, that's fine, but did you read the fine print in your policy? Because the fine print says your insurance company is going to pay, but only up to what's called a certain amount, called the coverage limit, which is typically $300,000 to $500,000. And that may sound like a lot of money, but Forbes magazine reported that from 1994 to 2001, the average damage award in this country tripled to $1.2 million. Now, you think about this. You get a judgment against you for $1.2 million. Your insurance company pays first $500,000. Does anybody see a problem? You could be going broke even though you had insurance when juries add zeros to damage awards. Now, a fourth way many of us on this call right now are wide open to being sued is because we own our assets in what is called joint ownership. There are many, many forms of joint ownership. The most common is the first one is called joint tenancy with right of survivorship. And then if you live in California, where Jeff does, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Wisconsin, a couple other states, beyond that, Nevada, you have what's called community property. Washington State as well, community property. And so, folks, you're in it if you're simply married. Now, let me put it this way. There was nothing wrong with you owning your assets with your spouse or a parent or child or sibling or a friend. There was nothing wrong with that until June 26, 1985, when the U.S. Supreme Court changed the law by ruling that if you have a joint owner who does something wrong, you can now lose every asset you own jointly with them, even though you didn't do anything wrong. So let's understand that it was fine to own our assets in joint tenancy at one time. But in 2012, joint tenancy does nothing to protect your assets. In fact, joint tenancy actually multiplies the risk to your assets. Now, a fifth way, a lot of us on the call today are wide open to getting sued is because you may be doing business with a family member or a friend. And folks, if that's the case, you may have the most dangerous business structure you could ever have called a general partnership. And that means you may now go broke for what your partner does wrong. Now people often say, no, I couldn't be in a general partnership because I didn't sign anything. Folks, you don't have to sign anything. All you have to do is just be in business with somebody else, and if you did not set up a corporation the way you knew you should, you are in a general partnership automatically by default. Now, let me give you a quick example of how this actually comes about. Jeff, I bet you've seen this a bunch of times. Let's say you learn how to bird dog, scout properties. You find a property, but you have no money, no credit. You go to somebody who has some money, a money partner, and the deal is, you finance the deal. I'll bring the deals to you. We'll split the deal with the profits 50-50. And you have a deal like that, folks, you understand? You're in a general partnership right now. And your partner does something wrong, you can lose everything you own. Folks, that's how easy it is to be in a general partnership. Now, the alternative is this. If you're going to do business with somebody else, you merely take about 10 minutes, fill out a form that I can show you, I'm going to provide for you later on, and you set up a corporation. And now, rather than being two partners in a partnership, you have become two stockholders or shareholders in a corporation. And now the rules change completely because the rules now say a stockholder in a corporation has zero liability for the debts of the business. But if you want to run that same business without a corporation, you can do anything you want, but you now have unlimited personal liability for the debts of your business. One of the most important business decisions every business owner has to make right up front is how much personal liability am I willing to assume in my business? And the answer for most smart business people is none. And if that's the right answer for you, there's only one way you're going to do business, and that is as a corporation, or we could say an LLC as well. That's the only way you want to do business. Now, let's change your facts, and let's just assume you're going to run this business all by yourself, and you may be thinking, I don't need a partner. I don't have a partner, so why would I need a corporation? Because when you're new at something, you're much more likely to make mistakes. And let's assume one of these mistakes turns into a very unhappy tenant or vendor or customer or this or an IRS, and they sue your business. If there is no corporation protecting you, who are they suing? They're suing you. And when they sue you personally, you know what they can take? Everything you own. And folks, that's simply not worth the risk, because your alternative is, rather than risk it all, you take 10 minutes, fill out one of my forms, create a corporation. Now you're doing business as a one-person corporation. And people sometimes say, can you do that? And the answer is, yeah, you can be a one-person corporation. And then you're the president, the vice president, the secretary, the treasurer. You're the only employee of that corporation, which is why, by the way, we have a very generous employee welfare benefit plan drafted for you. All right, so you're going to give yourself benefits as an employee of your own corporation. Now, you're doing business as a one-person corporation. Let's assume something goes wrong. They sue your business. The question is this: who are they suing now, you or the corporation? And the answer is they have to sue the corporation. And because they're not suing you, they cannot take your personal assets. So everybody write down this very important rule, which I hope is on your screen, and that is corporations generally protect your personal assets. Once again, corporations generally protect your personal assets. And for those of you who right now are Jeff students and you already have a corporation, I want to salute you because you're doing it the right way. That's the right way to run a business. Now, having said that, corporations are good, but they're not perfect. Let's not get carried away here. There are loopholes in every single corporation, and folks, if you don't close these loopholes, that'll be exactly where the plaintiff goes to sue you to take your money. First of these loopholes is this. When you have a corporation, remember, the rule is they cannot generally, corporations generally are going to protect your personal assets. But here's the loophole. When they sue your corporation, you understand, they can take everything in your corporation. Because the loophole is corporations protect your personal assets, but they do not protect the business assets. In other words, corporations do not protect the assets owned by the corporation. They sue the corporation. That's exactly what they take. And people sometimes go, oh, really? Yeah. So, folks, understand, corporations are good, but we're not going to want to own important assets in the corporation. And let me just point this out. One of the reasons Jeff has asked me to speak to you here tonight is because I will see people have a great offensive strategy. They'll be buying rental properties on a regular basis. They buy, and pretty soon they've got, 20, maybe even 10, 15, 20, 30 rental properties. And the plan is I'm going to pay them down as fast as I can, then I'm going to live off the rents, and, it's going to be good cash flow. That's a great offensive plan. Jeff can teach you that. But the reason he's asked me to speak to you is because the tragic thing is I'll see people own 10, 15, 20, 30 rental properties in one corporation. And what happens? When someone slips and falls, they sue the owner of the property, which is the corporation. You know what they can take now? All the rental properties in the corporation. And what just happened? The 5, 10, 15 years worth of work. It's down the drain. What just happened to your retirement? It's gone. And that doesn't have to happen when you use the right legal structures. Folks, I'm going to tell you this. Corporations are good for running a business, for giving you tax deductions, but you do not want to own assets in a corporation because they're not protected. So the way we're going to fix this problem is you're going to use the most powerful legal tool there is out there to own the business assets, and now they sue your corporation. They get nothing, and you have protected all of your business assets. I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. Now, second loophole, very quickly. Let's assume you have a corporation, and that's all you have. Something goes wrong. They sue your corporation. The rule is they cannot generally take your personal assets. I hope everybody understands that. But here's the loophole. I hope you all saw that little wiggle word generally in there. The loophole is they can pierce the corporate veil. Now, if you've never heard that phrase, I need to explain it to you. Let's just assume Jeff did it wrong. He didn't, but let's assume Jeff did it wrong. He set up a corporation and then just forgets all about it. He just runs his corporation any way he wants to. Something goes wrong. Somebody sues Jeff's corporation, and they've already taken all the business assets, and Jeff's out of business. But they say, I want to go after Jeff's personal assets too, and his lawyer says, well, you can't get them. They're protected by his corporation. And the lawyer says, you want to bet I can't get them? And they now demand from Jeff every document relating to his corporation. They say, I want to see your minutes. I want to see your annual meetings. I want to see your director's resolutions. I want to see this. I want to see that. And if Jeff didn't dot every I and cross every T, they're going to walk into court and say, Your Honor, Jeff ignored his corporation all these years, so why shouldn't I? And the judge says, there's no evidence Jeff ever treated his corporation as a separate legal entity, so I'm going to have to rule this is a sham corporation. Plaintiff, Nate Jeff's personal assets, and you're wiped out. Now, that doesn't happen with Jeff because he knows what he's doing. He's really a smart guy, and he's got himself set up the right way. But the vast majority of people with corporations are sitting ducks because the corporation is not run correctly. It is absolutely pierceable. But what I'm going to show you is how you get a bulletproof corporation. So
Bob,
here's the bad news.
Bob, that's a really good point that's a really good point you made there. Okay, and I actually have several layers of asset protection. I run my business through the corporation. Now, I just want to let you know, Bob, I just work for the corporation.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but my automobiles, all my meals, entertainment, all that stuff is all paid for by the corporation. Okay, but one of the things that I've done is I do have assets in my corporation, but I hold all of my rental properties in a land trust. I know you're familiar with land trust. Okay, so if they were to sue the corporation, pierce that corporation veil, and come after me for all my assets, my personal rental properties are not part of that corporation. They're in a separate land trust that I am only the beneficiary of, and I have a family member that's designated as a trustee of that land trust. Okay, now that's a little bit more advanced here. And the purpose of the call here tonight is to get you set up operating in a corporation. So number one, you can save a lot of money every year in taxes. And number two, protect yourself and your assets from frivolous lawsuits. So Bob,
Absolutely
go
right.
ahead.
Thank you, Jeff. And Jeff mentioned something very, very important, and that key word was layers of protection. And that's what we're talking about here. In other words, you want to have a corporation, but because it can be pierced, they can take the business assets. So you're going to protect those business assets using the most powerful legal tool there is, a different legal tool than the corporation. And so you own the assets in a different legal tool. You run the business with a corporation, and now they pierce the corporate veil. They get nothing, and you protected all your business assets, and I know that's exactly what you want to do. Now, a third very important loophole is this. When you have a corporation, you're going to run it, and you're going to be the president, vice president, secretary, or treasurer of the company, and that means you are called an officer of the company. And did you know the law says, as an officer, they can sue you personally for what your corporation does wrong, and they can now take your personal assets. And that's a bummer. Now, large corporations buy what is called directors and officers liability insurance, but you're not going to be able to afford that. And so the way you want to protect your personal assets is this. We're going to use that very powerful legal tool to protect your personal assets, and now even if they sue you as an officer, they're going to get nothing, and you protected all of your personal assets. Now, there's a fourth loophole. I'm going to show you that in a little while, but I want to point something out. People often say, hey, Bob, thank you for telling me about that because I was going to set up my corporation. I was going to make my spouse the secretary treasurer, give him a title and make him feel good. But now I won't. That way they won't be an officer, and that way they can't get sued. How's that? Well, nice try. They're going to get sued anyway because he or she looks like an officer of the company. What happens in real life is busy people. Just like Jeff said, the doctor example, let me remind you of this. Busy people turn to their spouses and say, honey, I'm so busy with all the real estate, the rentals. Would you mind just keeping the books? So the wife manages the real estate, right? And then sooner or later, that spouse is signing the checks to the bank, to the vendors, etc., and now to the outside world. Doesn't that spouse look just like the secretary treasurer of the company? What do you think? The rule is, if you look like an officer, if you smell like an officer, you're an officer. Now, an eighth way, almost everybody on this call is wide open to being sued is because you are the owner of an asset, and in America today, that is unbelievably dangerous. Quick example. Let's assume you're the parent of a teenage driver, and your teenager can't own anything legally until they're a certain age, and so the car they're driving is titled in your name. And son or daughter gets into an accident, and I bet you know who gets sued. You weren't doing anything wrong. You weren't in the car. You weren't driving. But the reason you get sued is because you are the owner of the car. Your name is on the title, and that makes you automatically liable. Now, Think of this. Think of what titles you have your name on. Typically, your vehicle, your home, your real estate, your stocks and mutual funds, your savings accounts. And for every one of those assets with your name on the title, when something goes wrong with that asset, you are automatically liable. So half of the strategy is simply get your name off of titles, because a lot of smart people have concluded that the ideal number of titles we want to have our name on is 0. And getting your name off of titles, as Jeff has done, will do two big things for you. Number one, now when something goes wrong, they sue the owner of the property. That isn't you, and you're not liable. Second of all, if your name does not appear on any titles, how are you going to look when someone does an asset search on you? You're going to look broke, and that's exactly how you want to look. Because if you look broke, they're going to skip right over you and sue the next guy on the list. So half the strategy is get your name off of titles. The other half of the strategy we're going to cover in a minute is what name do you put back on the title, and believe me, it's not a corporation. Now, people look at a list like we're talking about, and they'll say, we've got way more liability today than we ever had before. I think we need to beef up our defense. We're going to buy some more liability insurance. Folks, don't get me wrong. I'm all for insurance. You should have it. I have it. Jeff has it. It's a good first line of defense. But here's the problem. If all you can think of for a defense is insurance, what happens when you buy more insurance, you get that $2 million umbrella policy? Do you think all this insurance is going to deflect lawsuits away from you, or more likely draw them to you? The answer is they're going to draw them to you, because you just made yourself a bigger target, a deeper pocket. You just made yourself the low-hanging fruit. So we tell our clients to have a reasonable amount of insurance, because it is a good first line of defense, but we always say have a real defense backing you up. And folks, people often say, well, I have insurance. Why do I need a backup defense? Because has anybody ever heard of an insurance company ever denying a claim? Somebody once said insurance is a little bit like a hospital gown. You only think you're covered. And if the insurance is not there for you for any reason, and you do not have a backup plan, how are you going to survive what can be a multi-million-dollar loss? Well, you know, we could go on with this forever, but I think you got the idea. Not one of the people on this list has done anything wrong. Every one of these people got sued. It takes a lifetime of hard work to make it. It takes one careless lawsuit to lose it all. And so the question is, why did these people get sued even though they hadn't done anything wrong? And it's this. It is because of a legal doctrine that has grown and grown and grown over the years called vicarious liability. That is the legal doctrine that says you can get sued for what somebody else does wrong. In other words, you can get sued for what your spouse does wrong. You can get sued for what an employee does wrong. You can get sued for what an intruder on your property does wrong. You can get sued for what another joint owner does wrong. You can get sued for what a partner does wrong. You can get sued for what another officer does wrong. You can get sued for what your kid does wrong. In other words, you can get sued today for what somebody else does wrong, and that's the law. Now, the problem is this. Think about it. Do you control any of these other people's actions? And the answer is no. And if we don't control their actions, but we can be sued for their actions, then how in the world are we supposed to control our liability today and protect what we've worked so hard for? The way we protect our clients and keep them off of a list like this is to change the only thing that you and I control. And think about it. You don't control whether someone else, not to make a quick buck, decides to sue you. They can sue you anytime for any reason. And once you're sued, you don't control whether some judge or jury is going to let you keep what you worked so hard for. The only thing that you control right here and right now is how you own your assets. In other words, do you own your assets in a way that if someone sued you tomorrow, you could say, sue me all you want, you won't get a thing, it's all protected? Or would you have to say, I don't have a clue what I'm doing. Come and get it. And it's just as easy to own everything you have where it's locked down and protected as it is to leave yourself wide open. I'll show you that in a minute. But before we go there, we're going to take one last look at our legal system. And folks, I want to tell you about a statement made by one of the richest plaintiffs' lawyers in America today. His name is Dickie Scruggs. He is a billionaire from suing people, and he made this statement to the Wall Street Journal a while ago, and this is really how the game is played. Now, I want to point out, the vast majority of attorneys are very good people. They're ethical, believe it or not, despite all the jokes. They want to do the right thing, and they do the right thing. They follow the rules. But there's always an outlier out there who doesn't, and I'm going to tell you, they often get away with it. And that's the one guy you don't want to run into. Here's what he had to say. He said, "We sue in certain courts where we know we can easily win, where the judge is elected with verdict money, where the trial lawyers have a relationship with the judge, where they've got large populations of voters who are in on the deal. It's almost impossible to get a fair trial if you're a defendant in some of these places. It doesn't matter what the evidence of the law is." And that is disgusting, because what that means is no matter how hard you work, no matter how much good education you get, no matter how much real estate you own and how much cash flow you have, that's all offense. But if this kind of statement here is what you're counting on for a defense, that is nothing more than a crapshoot. You go ahead and make the money. It'll be like taking candy from a baby. Now, if you think it's time to even up the odds, which you probably should, folks, let me tell you what you're going to do. You're going to want to set up the one legal tool that protects your family from a lawsuit, the one legal tool that protects your family's hopes and dreams, and the name of that tool is a lawsuit protection entity. And that is the tool that can literally save your financial lives. Now, we're going to talk about a lawsuit protection entity in just a minute, but I got to shift for just a minute because I got to talk to you about one other threat that's coming your way, and this is real. This is going to happen. This will hurt your family unless you stop it, and it's about the last thing you're thinking about, but I'm talking about probate. Now, probate occurs when we've passed on and we want our loved ones to inherit what we've worked so hard for, but the problem is if all you have is just a will to pass your assets on, did you know wills automatically take you to probate? And probate is not cheap, it's expensive, it's not fast, it's slow, and in probate, you destroy your family's privacy because you've just created a public record in probate court so anybody can see who got what, how much, and what their address is, and if that isn't what you wanted to do to the people you've loved and protected all of your life, then you don't want to use a will to pass your assets on. Today, we're going to use the one legal tool that protects your family from probate, and it's called a living trust. Now, how do we protect our families from probate using a living trust? We're going to do two quick things. We first create the trust, and then we fund the trust. Now, to create a living trust, you're going to do it the same way you create any other legal tool in America today. We fill out a form. Now, people sometimes say, well, can you do that, just filling out a form? And the answer is yes. Think of this. How many of you have an IRA or a 401k? And how did you get your IRA or 401k? What'd you do? You filled out a form. That's how it's done. Now, once you've created the trust, and by the way, I've got that form for you. We're going to make that available to you. But once you've created the trust, then you have to go to step 2 and fund the trust. That means you simply got to move your assets into the trust, and the way you move assets into a trust is you fill out another form. Folks, I'm serious, just for a minute here. If after we're gone, if somehow we're allowed to look back down and see the mess we've left behind for other people to clean up and the pain we've caused, I bet every one of us would do this right now, because all we're talking about is taking about a half hour before you go to bed in the next couple of weeks, filling out 2 simple forms. How hard is that? And then years from now, when we're gone, think of this. Our loved ones get 100% of the money you want them to get. The probate lawyers get nothing. Is that a good defense? Furthermore, our loved ones get these assets within hours after we pass instead of making them wait for months or maybe years. And then maybe best of all is everything remains completely private. Because with a living trust, it passes just within your family. There is no probate court, no public record, and no World Wide Web. Because now most probate courts put all this probate information online. And folks, the living trust is an absolutely beautiful tool, And for those of you listening in tonight, if you've got a living trust, I want to salute you because you have done it exactly right. Good job. I wish everybody on this call had a living trust, and you soon can have, and I hope will have. Very simple to do. Now, as good as the living trust is for protecting your family from probate, I want you to be aware that in a very common circumstance, the living trust can be a disaster. And that circumstance is if you have left yourselves vulnerable to a lawsuit, levy, or lien, the living trust can wipe you out because the living trust does not protect your assets from a lawsuit. Write that down. The living trust does not protect your assets from a lawsuit. This is not a lawsuit protection entity. The tragedy I see is that people go to a lawyer and say, hey, we need to get our affairs in order. And the lawyer says, great, let's set up a living trust. And they do, and then they fund it with your assets. They put your home in there, your savings accounts, your checking accounts, stocks, mutual funds, your real estate, the rental properties. In other words, everything we own goes into that living trust, and you are set up to protect your family from probate. But you're also set up to go broke because if just one lawsuit strikes, set up this way, that lawsuit now has a ripple effect, a domino effect against every other asset in a living trust. It takes them down in flames. We lose it all. An entire lifetime of work is destroyed because we failed to understand that the living trust was never designed to protect our assets from a lawsuit. The living trust is designed to protect your family from probate. Now, I want to be really clear. The living trust is a wonderful tool. And if you have a living trust, you keep it. You've done the right thing. My point here is, as good as the living trust is, I think you're going to find that simply all by itself, just that one little layer, it's not good enough. You're going to want to add another layer to your living trust. That one legal tool that does protect. And if you remember, the legal tool that protects your family from a lawsuit is not a corporation. It is not a living trust. The tool that protects your family from a lawsuit is called a lawsuit protection entity. And for the next few minutes, get a clean piece of paper because we need to take some really careful notes on this tool. Now, a lawsuit protection entity is just a generic term under which several very specific legal tools are going to fall. I'm going to talk to you tonight about one of the most important, the most established, the granddaddy of them all, and it's called a family limited partnership. Now, family limited partnerships are found under laws under Section 704 of the Internal Revenue Code. They're nothing new. They've been around since 1916. That means for over 90 years, our courts have been ruling on cases involving family limited partnerships, and if you haven't heard of one before, well, you can be assured our courts are very familiar with how well this tool protects you. Now, it's also called a limited partnership for short. Same thing, family limited partnership, tomato, tomato. All right, now, to set up a limited partnership, you're going to fill out a form we have for you. The form wants to know who are the general and limited partners. The general partner is typically you and your spouse. The limited partner is typically kids or grandkids. Now, it's done this way because the general partner always has 100% control. And by the way, I want to point out that, you know what, it doesn't even have to be a family member. It doesn't even have to be a human being who's a partner in your partnership. You can make a partner in your partnership your corporation, your living trust, or your LLC. So anybody on this call, even if you don't have a family, so to speak, sometimes people say they don't. Well, doesn't matter. You can still set up a family limited partnership, and we're going to show you how. Now, once we have that limited partnership set up, you want to get your assets in it, and that's where they're going to be protected. So let's just take a simple asset we own and put it in here, and we're going to see how this works. I assume everybody owns a savings or checking account, and the way most people own their savings or checking account is in their name or in joint ownership with someone else. I think if you ask yourself, that's probably how you own your savings or checking account, as with many other assets. Now, think of this. How did we get these simple legal structures, such as owning it in your name or in joint tenancy? Well, we go down to a bank. We say, I need to open an account. And they say, well, fill out this form. And there's a question on the form that says, how do you want to own this account? And when you come to that question, let's be honest. How many options do we really consider? One or two? If you're single, you put it in your name. If you're a couple, you make a joint. And the reason people make a joint is so both people can draw on the account and write checks, and that's fine. But what they don't realize is they just put an important asset in joint tenancy. And what happens when one of you is sued? Can't they take all your money? Yeah. What about this? So what we want to do is put our savings and checking accounts in our limited partnership, our stocks, bonds, mutual funds, our T-bills, our CDs, our money market accounts. They are now protected by your limited partnership. So when someone sues you, they can't touch your money. Someone sues a joint owner, they cannot touch your money. You have just protected your life savings. And Jeff, what do you think? Is that what most people want to do?
Absolutely. You got to protect your life savings. And there's so many people right now that have retired and then they become a victim of a lawsuit, they have bad investments and so forth, they lose it all, they end up going back to work. So you definitely want to protect your life savings.
That's exactly right.
And Bob, I want to remind everybody that in the call here shortly, we're going to be covering how they can get a free corporation to save big-time money in taxes, protect your assets, and also you're going to be giving away that free ebook and taking questions at the end.
You bet. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. I want to point something else on. For those of you who own real estate, very important. Real estate's a great asset to own, but it's a high-risk asset. You can't move it. You can't hide it. People slip and fall on it. And I want to give you a very important rule. And let me just tell you a quick story first. I ran into a guy the other day, and he said, I own 25 single-family rental homes. What do you think of that? And I said, that's good. I said, but how do you own it? How do you own those properties? And he said, in my name. But here's the problem. He said, last week, the cops raided one of my homes. He said, it turned out one of my renters was running a meth lab in the back bedroom. He said, if this dirtbag sold this junk to some kid and hurt a kid, could they sue me? And the answer is, you bet they can sue him. And when they sue him, they can take all 25 rental properties. They take his life savings. They take his home. He can lose it all because he had, for a legal structure, all of his eggs in one basket. And that's the worst legal structure you could ever have. And yet some of us on this call are sitting right here with all of your eggs in one basket. We're going to show you how to get them out of that basket. Now, I want to give you a very important rule, which I hope everybody on this call will write down. And that rule is never own investment real estate in your name. Never own investment real estate in your name. Now, let's think that through. Why is that so bad? Because if you're the owner of the real estate, think of this. Something goes wrong, who are they going to sue? They're going to sue the owner. That means they sue you, you have potentially 100% liability. And stop and think of this. How much do you control what your renters are doing on your property? Answer is zero. So the way you have yourself set up, if you own real estate in your name, is you gave yourself zero control and 100% liability. And that is, folks, you're set up to fail. You're not set up to win. Now, I hope we all understand why you do not own investment real estate in your name. And I want to tell you, I had a couple the other day sitting there, nodding their head saying, nope, we don't own real estate in our name. We own it jointly. And what they just do, they just double the risk. You don't put real estate in one name. You don't put it in two. Instead, we're going to own that real estate in the one legal tool where they cannot take it, and that is in a family limited partnership, because now they sue you, they get nothing, and you have protected all of your real estate. And, folks, that's what you want to do. Now, I'm simplifying things. There are some layers that you can add here. You can put the real estate in a land trust first and then put the land trust into the limited partnership. Loads of things we can do to create more layers of protection. And the only question is, how much protection do you want? And some people are going to say, I'm satisfied with a couple layers of protection. Others are going to want 3 or 4 layers of protection. And that's a personal choice, which we can help you with. Now, your real estate is protected. Now, what about this? That closes, by the way, that first loophole, because if you own the real estate in a corporation, you own the real estate in an LLC, they sue the LLC, they sue the corporation, they can take the real estate, and you've lost the game. Instead, you own the real estate in your limited partnership. Now, here's another problem. What happens if they pierce the corporate veil? In other words, the real estate is owned in your limited partnership, not in your corporation. Now, here's the second loophole. What happens if you just have a corporation? That's all you have. They sue your corporation. They cut right through it. They pierce the corporate veil. Can't they take your personal assets? Answer is yes, they can. So, question back to you. Where would you want your personal assets to be if they could take them potentially? Would you want them in your name? Would you want them in joint tenancy? Or wouldn't you want them in a family limited partnership? Because now, even if they pierce the corporate veil, they get nothing and you are protecting your personal assets. Now, another loophole is if you're an officer of a company, which you typically will be, they can sue you personally and take your personal assets. So the solution to that is you protect your personal assets in a family limited partnership. And now, even if they sue you as an officer, they get nothing and you protected your personal assets. Now, I want to point something else out. This is the biggest loophole with people who have a corporation. Most people with corporations I see have them set up completely wrong, where someone could sue you and take your whole corporation away from you. And folks, believe me, that can ruin your day. Now, the problem is this. When you own a corporation without thinking about it, most people own it because they own the stock of the company and the stock is in their name. In other words, they own it personally. And what happens when someone sues you personally? They can take the stock you own personally in the lawsuit, and now don't they own your corporation? And as the new owner, they can fire you, and they will in a heartbeat. And you've now lost your business, all your tax breaks, you've lost your retirement plan in the corporation, you've lost your retirement, all because we had a lousy legal structure. So the way we're going to fix that is pretty simple. We're going to put the stock of our corporation not in our names. We're going to put the stock of our corporation in our family limited partnership, and now you have protected your corporation. Now, one last little simple thing. For those of you who happen to have an investment account, stocks or mutual funds, if the investment account is in your name, it's in joint tenancy, they can sue either one of you and take it. So why not simply put it in a family limited partnership, and now it's protected. Now, people will sometimes look at this and say, well, Bob, you tell me I got to put everything I own in a family limited partnership? And the answer is no. Only the assets you don't want to lose. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to fill out the form, create our limited partnership. You're going to mail it to the Secretary of State for filing. When the Secretary of State gets our limited partnership, they're going to stamp it with the day and the hour and the minute they received it. And at that moment, you and your family are protected from a lawsuit. Now, why do you think they put the minute on there? Because it doesn't matter, or it does? It does. Because when somebody sues you, the court will also stamp on the lawsuit the very minute when it was filed. And if it turns out the lawsuit was filed after you filed your limited partnership, you and your family are protected. The person trying to sue you is out of luck. But if you procrastinate and you file your limited partnership after someone sues you, the person out of luck is you. I can't emphasize how important this is. You have to get these protection tools set up before there's any problem. If you're saying, well, if you're thinking, hey, things are going great, why would anybody sue me? That's the perfect time to get it set up. I can't help you with this. I can't protect you once the lawsuit is filed. It's kind of like, you buy insurance before the fire starts, not after. You're not going to get it afterwards. This is fire insurance, and it's important to have. You got to have it. Now, didn't mean to hit too close to home there, Jeff. Sorry.
That's all right. You got to share this information with these folks on the call here tonight. I mean, this is very powerful information.
Very powerful. Now, we're going to get our limited partnership set up, and now here's the key. Somebody sues you. They cannot take your money. They can't take your business. They can't take your assets in the family limited partnership. All they're going to get for suing you is called a charging order. And believe me, they do not want a charging order because it gives them 3 migraine headaches. The first thing they get under a charging order when they sue you and they win the lawsuit is they get the right to seize a certain percentage of your assets in the limited partnership. The exact percentage they get to seize every time by law is 0. They cannot seize, attach, or levy upon a single asset in your limited partnership. And, folks, you get that set up right in the right state. That is exactly the result. And, folks, I assume that's exactly what you want. Now, the second thing that the charging order lets them get is the net income that you distribute from the partnership. Now, listen carefully. All I'm talking about is some average, run-of-the-mill, legal Zoom-type limited partnership you're going to see floating around out there. You watch out. Those limited partnerships typically say, we're not going to let them take your business in the partnership. We're only going to let them take the profit. We're not going to let them take your real estate in the partnership. We're only going to let them take your rent. And we're not going to let them take your investment accounts in the partnership. We're only going to let them take your investment income. This is a terrible result. So we're not going to use some average run-of-the-mill limited partnership for you. For you, we're going to use a limited partnership on steroids. Now, think of this. I'm going to read some of the key words that we have drafted. It is so important how the tools are drafted. You don't want to just get something offline because you have no idea what it says, and you're not going to read it anyway. And even if you read it, you wouldn't know what it means. These tools have to be drafted correctly. Here are the key words. Listen carefully. Then you tell me how much of your income you're ever going to be forced to give someone who sues you. It says, from the limited partnership itself, it says, the general partner, which is you, shall distribute the net income from the partnership to each partner every year, except the general partner does not have to distribute income if the general partner decides not to distribute any income, which means they have sued you and they are waiting for a distribution. You will distribute to them nothing and they get no income. What this means is you have now protected your asset and your income, and folks, that is exactly what you want. Now, as good as this is, there's an old saying that says you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink. And somebody on this call won't do this for some reason I don't understand. And you'll go into business, you'll be buying real estate, you'll be thinking, man, I love this business, I'm living the dream. And then from out of the blue, someone sues you for, say, $2 million, and your dream has just become a nightmare. Because now that you're sued, you're going to have to hire a lawyer, and lawyers don't work for cheap. We're talking $200, $300, $400, $500, $600 an hour for their time, depending on where you live. If you live in New York City, it's $1,000 an hour. Furthermore, the average lawsuit drags on for 3 to 5 years. You're going to be paying these hourly rates. And even worse, think of this. You make your money playing offense, and now that you're sued, you're playing defense. And you're going to invest all this time and money in this lawsuit, hoping you win. And think of this. What's the best possible outcome you can hope for when you're the one sued and you win? Well, you get to walk off with millions of dollars because you won? No. All you get to do is keep your stuff, minus the attorney's fees, which can be in the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And my question to you is, what kind of victory is that? You know, how many of those victories would you like to have this year? Folks, I'm going to tell you this. The only way you win a lawsuit is not to get sued in the first place. People say, yeah, but you told me anybody can sue me anytime for any reason. And that's true. They can. But you've got to be smarter than that. Why are they suing you? What do they want? Well, they want your money. They want your business. They want your rental properties. They want your assets. So what if you knew that? And you purposely protected your money and your business and your rental properties and your assets so they couldn't get them. What do you think they would do if they couldn't get anything from you? They'd leave you alone. Because what's 30% of zero? Zero. I hope everybody understands how this can be a lawsuit deterrent, a lawsuit repellent. Now, I want to give you the best thing of all. Number 3. In the year 1977, the IRS issued one of the most famous revenue rulings of all time. It's known as Revenue Ruling 77-137. This is the tax law of the United States. Basically, the IRS says this. We don't care that the winner of the lawsuit was entitled to get $2 million from you, but they couldn't figure out how to get it. We don't care. Even though the winner of the lawsuit got nothing from you, the winner of the lawsuit still must pay income taxes on the $2 million you never gave them. They have to pay taxes on the income you never gave them. Folks, who in their right minds is ever going to want to sue you or me with our assets in a family limited partnership, and the prize for winning is they're going to get none of your assets, they're going to get none of your income, and instead of getting your assets or income, they're going to have to pay income taxes on income you never gave them. And people say, Bob, that is sweet. And sweet it is. Jeff, how do you like that?
That's pretty awesome, Bob. It's pretty awesome.
Pretty powerful protection. Now, I want to give you some quick examples of real-life people who have these tools set up and their experiences. One guy said, I set up a family limited partnership with your forms. I later received some defective product from a supplier and refused to pay. The supplier sued me. He said, as soon as they found out my assets were protected, they dropped the suit and walked away. Now, ask yourself, what did this next dear woman do wrong to get sued? She said, my husband was involved in an auto accident that killed one man and injured another. The second man sustained injuries that cost over $1 million in medical bills. I was sued for everything I had. I hadn't done anything wrong except for owning a Lincoln Town car in joint ownership, the way many of you own your cars. I was being sued for millions, and my entire estate was at stake. After the plaintiff's attorney received copies of my limited partnerships, I didn't have to pay them anything. Your documents saved me over $3 million plus my entire real estate career. I will always be grateful. And then another guy had a little different take on this. He said, excellent. I had no idea that I could protect my assets and screw a lawyer at the same time.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I feel the love. Folks, you know, the way we get ourselves protected is we're going to set up that limited partnership by filling out a form. Now, you've been filling out forms all of your lives, and I'll bet this is the easiest form you are ever going to fill out because we put a little number beside each blank line, and you get a set of instructions. I mean, you can't screw this up if you try. Look at this. Line 1 says, put your name there. What is the day, the month, the year? I don't know why I'm in this loop. There you go. What's the day, the month, the year? What is your name of your state, name of your county? You know, you fill out a few lines, typically 10 or 11 lines, you're done. That might take you 15 minutes before you go to bed tonight. I want you to ask yourself this. Is 15 minutes of your time worth it to protect everything you have or you're ever going to have? Now, folks, I want to tie everything together very quickly here. We all own assets. Now, some of us on this call have a lot of assets, some don't. It doesn't matter. The question is, are your assets protected? There's an old saying that says, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. And before you go out and start, taking risks in business, first you protect what you have and then you go get more. You don't put what you have at risk in order to go make profits. That's not necessary. Jeff will tell you that. Jeff will show you how to make the profits, and I'm going to show you how to have a defense while you're doing it. Now, the way most people own their assets, unfortunately, gives them no protection at all. They own their assets in joint tenancy, they own their assets in their name, or they own their assets in a living trust. And if you want to own everything you have in joint tenancy, you can do anything you want, but you've got all of your eggs in one basket. And when someone sues you, they can take everything you own. If you own everything you have in your name and someone sues once again, they can take everything you have. You got all your eggs in one basket. And if you have everything you have simply in a living trust, they sue you, they can take it all. So the question is, when someone sues you or a loved one, how much of your money do you want them to take? And if the answer is none, then you put it in a limited partnership, because now when somebody sues you, what do they get? They get nothing but a tax bill. And let's get real. If this is the best they can hope for suing you, what is the likelihood they will ever sue you at all? And folks, this means you now have defense covered. You can turn your attention to offense, listen to what Jeff has to teach you, and you go make that money and you win the game. But what's going to take to win the game is an offense and an equally good defense. Now, let's tie this all together quickly. If you want to protect your assets from a lawsuit, the tool you set up is called a family limited partnership. If you want to protect your family from probate, the tool you set up is called a living trust. And if you want to protect your business income from high taxes, the tool you set up is called a C corporation. These are your major defensive tools. Now, these tools protect you way better than having all of your eggs in one basket. And these tools put money in your pocket by letting you pay lower income taxes, lower estate taxes, zero probate expense. And look at how you are winning this game because you have a real defense. You have the right legal structure. Now, many of you, I know, have a business for yourself. You own real estate or you soon will. And you're self-starters and you can figure things out. You can easily learn how to do what we've talked about here tonight and save yourself huge amounts of legal fees and get it done oftentimes even better than your neighborhood lawyer is going to be able to do for you. Folks, Jeff, do you think your people can do this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's not can they, it's they're going to. You have to. You have to protect your assets. You have to save money in taxes every year and take care of your family.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't, I mean, what are you facing? If you don't, you're facing unending taxes. You're facing constant liability, people pushing you around, always at the threat of taking what you have. You're never, ever secure. This is why I created the Total Asset Protection course. This is a simple, do-it-yourself, fill-in-the-blank set of forms that come with easy-to-understand instructions. Now, the forms are 99% complete. We've left a few blank lines for you to fill in, such as name, address, date, name of spouse, kids, etc., and you fill in a few blank lines and you're done. People often say, Bob, this is great, but couldn't I just pay some lawyer to do it for me? Well, if you paid me to do it for you, I would go to the exact same forms in this course. I'd fill them out with your information. I'd charge you an arm and a leg and hand it all over to you. But the problem is you still don't even know what to do with it. So it's next to worthless. I mean, think of this. Those of you with an LLC, do you even know how it's taxed? Because oftentimes people don't. With the course, you'll know why you have this entity, why you have that entity, what they're used for, how to operate them, and you're going to be way ahead of most other people in business, and that gives you a huge competitive advantage. We've already talked about this, but most people with corporations don't have them set up the right way. They don't have the right tax method. They don't have the right keywords. They don't have the right ownership. They own the wrong assets, and they can be pierced. Most corporations are next to worthless. Now, people often say, well, Bob, yeah, but, couldn't I just have some lawyers do this for me? I know some guy, he said he'd do it for me. Well, if you want, a lawyer to do it for you, let me put it this way. One of my students said, my husband and I had 2 of your family limited partnerships. We took them to our attorney, and he said they were bulletproof. They said they're bulletproof. That's how this course is. That's how good these forms are. But if you insist, you want a lawyer to do it for you, fine. You can do anything you'd like, but I want you to be aware you're going to pay a lot of money to have a lawyer do it for you. I can guarantee you'll pay thousands and thousands of dollars, and in the end, you still don't know whether you have a C corporation or an S corporation, how it's taxed, whether you have the right keywords, how your LLC is even taxed, and there's no other place where you can go to get the exact same family limited partnership, the exact same tax saver corporation. They're found here in this course and only here. Here's what a student of mine found out for himself. He received quotes from a law firm for $5,000 to $10,000 just for the trust. That did not include the corporation, the family limited partnership, the land trust, or other areas of protection. Another student said, for less than what I paid an attorney to set up my living trust, I'm taking care of all my assets and covering all the bases. I'm really happy about this. In the past, even recently, my partners have charged $20,000, $30,000 or more to set up these tools. But the good news is you can get this asset protection course not for this $20,000, $30,000 kind of nonsense. You can get the materials anytime you want for $2,997. And that's a huge savings over the amount that people literally pay all the time for just one of these tools. Now, for those of you who invest in the course tonight, it's only $2,997, but if you hold on to the end of the call in just a little while, I'm going to tell you about a special discount offer that the first 15 of you can get for investing in the course tonight. But first, I want to tell you what's in this course. I got to tell you what you get in this course because it's so good. And then I'm going to tell you about some bonuses that you're going to get. Now, the most important thing you're going to get in this course are all the tools I talked about. You're going to get the lawsuit protection tools, the limited partnership, the limited liability companies. You're going to get a C corporation, an S corporation. You're going to get a land trust. You're going to get a living trust. You're going to get all the tax reduction tools as well. You're also going to have the asset protection handbook, which is key because that shows you certain legal structures for different businesses, how each tool works, what assets to protect with each tool, how you layer the tools, how to operate you day by day, your corporation, your limited partnership, your LLC. And then you're also going to have in the forms all the keywords, including a medical reimbursement plan to let you write off 100% of your medical expenses, the keywords for vehicle allowances, etc. And you're also going to have state-by-state guides that give you state-specific information about homestead exemptions, about where the statutes are that you need to be aware of. Now, I need to tell you about some very, very special bonuses that I've got prepared for you tonight that Jeff has asked me to put together for you. So let's talk about some of these special bonuses available for the people who invest in the program tonight. And in a minute, you're going to see why I have to limit these bonuses to the first 15 people who invest tonight. Now, the bonus number one is brand new autofill software. It automatically fills in the forms for you, making it very quick and easy for you to do. And the best part is, as your business grows, you've got this software, so you can create as many corporations or LLCs or limited partnerships as you need, and all from the software. So you also get, by the way, a license to pass this around to your family members so they can get the same protection as you have. And remember, it's all about family. Many people say this is absolutely invaluable, and I say its value is conservatively $500 conservatively. Now, the next bonus you're going to have is a set of 4 DVDs of a boot camp that people paid $1,000 to attend. You now have the boot camp DVDs, and you can learn from them at your own pace. The value of that is $300. Now, the third bonus is this, and this is big. I'm going to give you my personal phone number for hotline consultations for the next 6 months. That means easily attorneys charge $300 an hour. Your calls are unlimited for the next 6 months, and that is a very conservative value of $600. And folks, Jeff, do you see why I can only do this for the first 15 people who invest in the program?
Wow, that's amazing. You give me your cell phone number. I've never heard of anybody, any attorney doing that. That's amazing, folks.
I know.
That alone is worth that price of the course. I mean, that's huge.
It is huge, and I'm making a big commitment of time and energy to, those of you who are going to invest in the course tonight. Hey, Jeff, by the way, where do they go to order?
Folks, to order, you can go to www.callwithjeff.com. That's www.callwithjeff.com. You can also call 1-800-574-9221. We do have operators standing by. Now, this is limited to only the first 15 spots, okay? This is not a marketing ploy. When those 15 spots are gone, they're gone. So go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, I can't give all these bonuses to all these people. You're going to see why in just a minute. Now, I got 2 more really big bonuses for you. Bonus number 4 is 2 years of free updates. If laws change that affect this program, I'm going to email to you any updates that are relevant, and that is a $100 value. And now here is the big one. The biggest one of all, bonus number 5, for those of you who invest in the program tonight, I'm going to invest in you. I will personally set up a corporation or an LLC, or if you've already got one, I'll amend your existing corporation or LLC at no additional cost to you. The only cost you have is you pay the filing fees. That is easily a value of $1,000, and that is only available to the first 15 people who order tonight. And so, Jeff, I mean, can you see why I can only do this for 15 people? I can't be setting up 100 corporations.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And folks, you've got to do this. And you know, if you already have a corporation, well, guess what? Then set up another corporation or an LLC. Okay. Again, folks, it's up to you to take care of yourself, your financial future, as well as your family. Again, to sign up, you can go to www.callwithjeff.com. You can call 1-800-574-9221. We do have operators standing by. Really fast, I want to congratulate Rick Yartz, Daniel Treviso, Richard Rodriguez, Lisa Cooper, Alan Hansen for taking action, signing up for this amazing program here tonight on our online training. Go ahead, Bob. Let's review what the course comes with, if you would.
Okay. I'm going to review. First of all, you've got the total asset protection course. That's a value of $2,997, but I'm going to show you that discount in just a minute. Second of all, you're going to have the autofill software bonus number one. That's a value of $500. The next bonus is a set of 4 DVDs from our boot camp that people paid $1,000 to attend, and that's a value of $300. Your next bonus, number 3, is 6 months of my personal support, my personal phone number, asset protection hotline, where you get my personal phone number and email address, and that's a value of $600. Bonus number 4 is 2 years of free updates, and I notify you when the laws change regarding your asset protection entities with a value of $100. And then finally, the biggest one of all is I will personally and professionally set up a corporation or LLC for you where you cover the filing fees only, and it'll be professionally done with all the keywords, and that is a value of $1,000. You add it all up, that is practically a $5,500 value in our offer tonight. Now, that's a once, and I got to give you a once in a lifetime special offer that Jeff has asked me to do, and Jeff I would only do this for Jeff. First 15 people who call here tonight are going to get the entire course, including all the bonuses, not for this $5,500. You're going to get the entire thing, including a corporation or LLC, for $997. Jeff, what do you think of that?
I think that's amazing. That's truly amazing.
I'll tell you this. I would only do this for Jeff. I have never made an offer this generous before, and I probably won't do it again. You want something even better? You know, the price of $997 is even tax deductible.
Exactly.
And after the tax deductions many of you are going to get from using this course, it pays for itself over and over, year in, years out. I mean, Jeff, would you agree this is one smart investment?
Absolutely. And folks, I can tell you this. Last time I saw Bob Bluhm speaking at an event, it was in Los Angeles. There was about 10 to 15,000 people in the room. It was at a Donald Trump and Tony Robbins event that they had. They had him come in, and what he was offering at that event was twice as much as what he's giving you the opportunity to take advantage of here tonight on the call. Okay?
With
and I've been trying to get Bob on my calls. I've been trying to get Bob on my calls here for the last 2 or 3 years, and finally I got him to come on the call here, share his information, share the special program with my listeners and students on the call here tonight. So again, folks, to sign up, you can go to www.callwithjeff.com. You can call 1-800-574-9221. This is for 15 people only. We do have, I believe, 9 or 10 spots left. So take action. Get signed up tonight. Protect your financial future. Protect your family's financial future. And let's get started here tonight.
All right. Now, thank you, Jeff. Now, I've never made an offer this generous before. Jeff mentioned when we were selling it in Los Angeles a little while ago, it was double the price, and it didn't include any of the bonuses. I've never made an offer this generous before, and I probably won't again. But you want something even better. People say to me, look, I really need to do this, but I just don't have the money right now. And we understand that things can be tight. So can you help me out somehow, they say. And we understand that. So Jeff has arranged for you a financing option. We can't make this any better. Jeff will finance this for you. It can't be any more generous than that. We'll meet you halfway if you'll meet us halfway. So one of my students,
Hey, Bob, really fast.
Yes, go ahead.
The financing program here. Basically, $597 down now, and then $597 in the next 30 days, and we'll get you set up immediately. Now, I know a lot of you out there do need some financing, so we set the special financing program up for you. If you do pay in full, you do save a little bit of money, but again, we do have the financing program in place. Again, go to www.callwithjeff.com, call 1-800-574-9221, If for some reason our operators are on the line, just leave your name and number. You will be time-stamped, the time you called in, the order of your call, and we'll call you back if you set up as one of the first 15 people. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you, Jeff. Folks, the time to get this done is now when nobody is coming after you, because after you're sued, I literally can't do anything to protect you. The perfect time to get yourself protected is now. One of my students summed the whole thing up like this. He said, the most important thing is knowing that my wife and kids are protected forever. Think of how secure your family will feel knowing that you have protected them. You know, it feels really good to know that what you have, what you're earning for your family and for their future will never be at risk of someone taking it away from them. So, Jeff, you know, tell them once again how they can order.
Folks, order again. Go to www.callwithjeff.com. You're going to see the order page there. You're going to see everything that Bob is offering here tonight on the call, the corporation setup, the access to him by phone, to his cell phone, the entire kit. I mean, everything is just turnkey system to get you up and running and protect your assets immediately. So again, folks, go to www.callwithjeff.com, call 1-800-574-9221, and we'll get you all set up. Now, we do have some questions here, Bob, that have come in on the screen here. Question number one is, do I have to refinance when I transfer my real estate into an FLP?
Answer is no. It has nothing to do with financing. You keep the exact same mortgage you have. If the first thing we're going to do, if we have a mortgage, is we're going to transfer it into a land trust. That does not violate the due on sale clause. The banks are fine with that. And then we're going to put the land trust into a limited partnership or an LLC. So, no, you do not have to refinance at all.
Okay, number two, are the forms good in all 50 states?
You bet. These rules, these tools that I talked about are created under uniform state laws, and the states have worked out the differences as a general rule. Now, there are some differences with LLCs, as I mentioned, because they're still kind of a new tool. And so that's why we give you the state-by-state guides to point out the very small variations from one state to another, but the forms themselves are absolutely good in all 50 states.
Number three, can I share the software with my parents, my adult kids, the rest of my family?
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest benefits you get. One woman said, you know, I'm going to use this to protect everything I hold dear, but can I send it to my folks? And the answer is that's exactly what you get. That's one of the biggest benefits with this program is you can share it with family. You can set up a living trust for mom and dad, get the kids set up with a corporation, get them set up with what they need as you're doing it for yourself. I mean, it's a very valuable part of the program.
Okay, number four is, can I switch from an S Corp to a C Corp?
Of course. That's intended that you would switch from an S Corp to a C Corp. It's one simple little form that we're going to send to the IRS. We have the form for you, and it's just a matter of sending in the form. Now, we'll work with you on how old your corporation is. If it's over a year old, you can only do it for the first 90 days of the year. But if it's less than a year, you can switch at any time from an S to a C Corp.
Okay. Another question here. Let me pull this panel down here. Why isn't just an LLC good enough for real estate?
Well, because, first of all, if all you have is an LLC, you're running the business and owning the assets in the same entity. It's a big problem. Furthermore, there's no anonymity there. You're going to want to use a land trust. We didn't have a lot of time to talk about a land trust because a land trust means they go to look up who owns that property, and the land trust owns it, and there's no tracing it back to you. So just owning it in an LLC is kind of like very amateur hour. It's not a very sophisticated approach. It's better than owning it just in your name, of course, but it's still just a baby step.
Exactly. And, you know, really I see a lot of investors out there. They go, well, I have one LLC for all my 10, 15 properties. That's got to be a tax nightmare at the end of the year.
Not only
you have to pay the state
nightmare.
fees. Yeah.
Oh, it's a liability nightmare, too. You've got all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Okay, another question. How would I be set up if I own property in different states?
One more time, Jeff. Missed it.
How would I be set up if I own property in different states?
Oh, well, you know, people sometimes don't want to hear this, but you really need to have an entity in that state to own the property. So in other words, if you own property in 3 states, you're going to need to have 3 different entities to own that property, because you're going to need that entity in that state. It's a citizen of the state. It's a real person, and it owns the real estate in that state. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take one more question here tonight, and that is, how do I decide what state to incorporate in?
We cover that in the course. You can call me. We can ask that. Sometimes it's going to be the state where you live, but if you live in a state with really, really bad corporation laws, we can do a whole lot better. There are some very good states. Everyone's heard of Nevada and Delaware, and the materials are going to tell you why those are the best states for setting up a corporation in many cases. So, yeah.
Sounds great. So this is what we're going to do here, Bob. I'm going to give out the link for everybody to go order right now. You go to www.callwithjeff.com. Call 1-800-574-9221. Folks, it's up to you to take care of yourself, your family, and your financial future, okay? You definitely need to do this. Get signed up tonight. For some reason, you need the financing. We do have the financing available. And, hey, Bob, you have a free ebook that you're going to be giving away to all the attendees on the call tonight. Is that correct?
That's right, Jeff. It's called Money in Your Pocket. It's the 10 biggest tax breaks for landlords. And if you own real estate, you've got to know about those, because really it's money in your pocket.
Okay, so this is what I'll do. Bob, go ahead and shoot me an email after this call here, and I'll email that free ebook out to everybody that was on the call here tonight. Okay?
Will do, Jeff.
And Bob, I want to thank you for coming on the call here tonight, sharing your powerful information. This was over a 2-hour call. It's the most amazing call that we've ever had. Thank you for sharing all this information. And folks, get started. Start protecting your assets now. Start saving money in taxes. Get signed up, and we'll see you at the top. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Jeff.
Good night.